Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you from, I see different continents represented here. It is a privilege to have you scholars on this platform. This afternoon here in the Philippines, our presenter is going to be Orsly Rararanta. Who is he? He is a PhD student at the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies. He is majoring in biblical studies with an emphasis with New Testament. Prior to this, he worked with the Amazing Facts Center of Evangelism School in Indonesia. He was also the director and the co-founder of the same. This afternoon, he will be presenting on the title Friendship as a Leadership Model, Implementing Jesus' Leadership Style in Mark 9:33 to 50 in the Church Relation and Mission Strategy. Before I give my time to him, may I encourage our scholars who are participating in this conference to please jot down your questions or your comments in the chat box. So as we proceed with the presentation, we would take note of your questions. Thank you so much. Pastor Orsly, the time is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Please also moderate, please remind me if somehow my voice is not really clear for the internet, probably slow down of the internet, you may interrupt me so I can turn off my video probably.
You're clear, it's clear.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Also, the title given to me is, my title I will be presenting for today's presentation is Friendship as a Leadership Model Implementing Jesus' Leadership Style in Mark 9:33 to 50 in the Church Relation and Mission Strategy. So people often put so much expectation on leadership. Leadership is often associated with vision, purpose, and more significant meaning in life. Some people believe in one-man show of leadership with great authority. However, in reality, leadership is a struggle that often ends up focusing on personal gain. Alfredson argued that leadership is often a source of much naivety, wishful thinking, and even stupidity. So Alfredson purposes that leadership need to function distinctly, reasonably, not to cover everything. On the other hand, contribute nothing, not contribute anything. Moreover, it needs to facilitate thinking rather than sound promising. Finally, it needs to acknowledge complexity to bring synergy to differences, not simply dictating right and wrong. So the theoretical background for this study is Dave Tomlinson, when discussing the phenomenon of post-evangelical, mentioned that one of the most significant reasons for many people leaving the church is that they cannot ask questions. There is a tendency in modern culture for leaders or scholars to dictate everything for all in the church. Therefore, the rising concern in the church is about the exercising authority. So the issue is most leadership research categorize leadership style into two groups, classic and contemporary. Classic leadership approach emphasizes formal, superior, rather than influencing and inspiring process. On the other hand, contemporary leadership emphasizes supporting, acknowledging, and developing. It includes relational-oriented leadership, such as coaching leadership, servant leadership, and friendship leadership, the model that will be the focus on this study. So, world leaders have long been aware of the ineffectiveness of the leadership model that focuses on power. Therefore, they try to develop leadership model that fit the world contemporary culture. Trumpreneurs and Foreman argue that companies that implement servant leadership have been more successful because it's able to not just compromise differences, but also synergize differences. Now, the rise of relational oriented leadership. The crucial contribution of relational oriented leadership is to make sure that subordinates are happy and developed. It includes the concern about the working environment. On the other hand, in the other words, this model concerned with the well-being of everyone in the organization as a precondition for fruitful organization. Now, Tom Pernars and Foreman again argue that involving the employees in the decision-making process is what changed the game in the contemporary leadership. So in contrast with leadership system that rely on these certain significant people with high performance, this approach appreciates every individual's role. Alverson concludes that the problem comes when the leader is overemphasizing the significance and superiority of a leader, creating a gap with others. And he argued that the significant role of relational leadership, therefore, is to create opportunities for dialogue, be respectful, have a heart, and allow people to express themselves. Surprisingly, the word leadership started to adjust themselves to this biblical model of leadership. But the question is, what about the church? Now we go to the friendship leadership in Mark 9. So the characteristic we can found the friendship leadership in Mark chapter 9, as we can go, if you can see. The leadership discourse in Mark chapter 9 to 33 to 50 start with the narrative that the disciple arguing about who is the greatest. And Jesus then described that the greatest is those who serve the others and willing to be the last. Jesus extends the idea of the leadership by taking a child and told them, who welcome a child in my name will welcome me. In the first 37 alone, we found word welcome used 44 times. Hebrew author often used repetition as a rhetorical strategy to emphasize specific idea. So the welcoming is one of characteristic of Jesus' leadership, emphasizing in this passage. Another characteristic, when one disciple brings a case to clarify the concept, he say, teacher, we saw someone else driving out demons in your name, and we try to stop him because he does not accompany us. The disciple attitude is contrary to what Jesus has just spoken to them. Someone even more than a child, do something greater, but they, instead of welcoming the person, they said that they tried to stop the person by arguing he was not part of Jesus' group. Now, Jesus clarified that. He said that indeed, anyone give you a cup of water because of you bear my name, truly I tell you, he will never lose his reward. And Jesus continued the meaning of becoming the part of Jesus' group. Anyone who bears his name, either doing great things or small things, is his company. Jesus used parallel to identify those idea. He do this some kind of parallel. He said, those who belong to me does a miracle, not against us or anyone who gives a cup of water in his name. And so those who do great, cast out the demon, or just do small things, give you a cup of water, even do nothing, not against us, as long as they believe in Jesus, they are part of the group. Jesus clarified that the leader's right attitude is to show appreciation and acceptance to the involvement and contribution, even just a small thing. So another characteristic in this is to give opportunity for others not to become a stumbling block for them. Jesus says, if anyone causes one of the little one who believe in me stumble, it will be better for them to put millstone around their neck and be thrown into the sea. He used a perfect tense here, were thrown into the sea, to highlight the to highlight the significant idea here, the great danger of this attitude. become a stumbling block for others. So Jesus showed a total rejection of the hypocrite and attitude of sacrificing others. So another leadership characteristic is a friend show appreciation, open to a correction, and is always ready to make a necessary adjustment. So we have here in this text, verse 40, it says, if you are become a stumbling block, you have to cut. If it's your eyes, your hand, or your feet. So it's part of the body. It's important. The word stumble repeat 4 times. The same with the welcome in the beginning is as a contrast for emphasizing. This repetition highlight the centrality of the concept of leadership as a friend. A true leader does not sacrifice others. Instead, she or he is willing to sacrifice himself for a better outcome. The last characteristic for a friendship leadership in these passages is to have a good influence, having salted. It says that having started among yourself and be at peace with each other, verse 50. So now explain it in the reality. Michael Browses argues from the passage that massive amount of complexity of communities working in Jesus' name demonstrates there are endless possibility to live and preach the good news. As Jesus argues, diversity is not a problem in or of itself. The risk emerges when any of those communities claims to be the only true community and exclusive agent of salvation instead of working together. Donita argue Mark Gospel emphasizing Jesus' message to the disciple that if the man's work are good, let him continue. Jesus taught them a great lesson. Early in the same chapter, the disciple couldn't do anything to help a kid with a seizure. But now they were complaining about, they call it non-disciple, cast out demon, they just couldn't do. So this is the irony. So Harvey Quenny argued that the church as a kingdom of nation and languages means all different countries and languages can bring their flavor of culture to the kingdom of God. He gives an example what Western countries try to impose conformity in the past, but now today they have becoming secular, and now Asia and Africa started to evangelize them back. Similarly, Ameladus believe Old Testament concept of priesthood is similar to ministers of pastor concept in the church today. Pastors are consecrated to serve the whole congregation, but not the only agent of salvation or group that will be saved. So the recent World Council realized the importance of the involvement of the lay member in the church business. For example, Vatican Council Father proposed the official priesthood status for all the baptized members. Similarly, we Seventh-day Adventist Church has total member involvement. So the question, therefore, how do we implement this kind of relational-oriented leaders model to support the church mission? Now we go to implementing this. Now the objective of this friendship leadership is, together with servant leadership model, friendship leadership model operates well in cross-cultural setting for the worldwide church. Servant leadership is a type of vertical relationship with the servant lordship pattern that sometimes can be twisted back and forth. Sometimes a leader in this model can be in a servant mode, but they may quickly turn themselves into a lordship model, a mode, become a boss sometimes. So friendship leadership complements servant leadership with a horizontal relationship between the leaders and the followers to maintain equality and as a global community of friends. As a word church, we need to not only be reflexive and flexible vertically, but also horizontally. It might include acceptance of the leadership of women and any marginal group of minority for maximum contribution. We use servant leadership to oppose power-oriented leadership in the church. But then we use friendship leadership to maintain equality and a lovely environment between church and member and the leadership and all the humanity in universal sense. Jesus says to his disciple, I do not call you any longer, but I have called you a friend, called you friend. So friendship leadership secure equality, transparency, mutuality, and unique role of every church member in the church ministry, society, including the worker and the society, not just the shareholder or the stakeholder. In the context, the administrator includes the well-being of all workers, the church members, and the society in all their strategic plan and policy. It might mean allowing participation of all parties in the decision-making process. At the same time, it tries to preserve uniqueness of every element in the church and the society. Now, the dilemma is friendship leadership must be carefully balance the interests of those who are called friends. We might have a dilemma on how we define others and not friends and be trapped in another exclusivism. So it seeks a solution, not a compromise. It starts with developing people with the heart of friend. In turn, people will contribute to the success of the organization. This approach is not to be used for identification purpose. The emphasis is not on establishing identity. Otherwise, we'll create another problem. So the global and local implication. In the local context, the church as a community of friends has its uniqueness. However, the local church needs to be flexible enough in the global context to accept the global identity. At the same time, global community embraces the local unique identity as part of the global identity. Therefore, in the local context, any unit or supporting ministry, even individuals in the church, might distinguish themselves from one another. But in the universal context, they share the same identity with the same mission goal. The implication for this is that all the supporting units or ministry that exist in the church are different, and they are also differ from official church. Probably they may operate uniquely based on the local need and context, yet in the higher level administration, they are all should be equally accommodated as part of God's global friendship community. This also applicable at the denominational level, how we interact with other denomination or human in general. So the strategy guidance, I have the case like one missionary training school in Indonesia. They have a class, the school have a class with the alumni, the association. When they have the class and one day they decided to open another branch, the school, evangelism school, the alumni complained and said that it's not in the SOP, and they are involved in argument. They are all the alumni and the school having been in the problem, having involved in the problem. The conflict happens simply because the school director underestimate the role of alumni association director, and ends up pulling the alumni, all the alumni into the circle of four. The solution for this from the perspective of friendship leadership is just simply to include the alumni in the community or whatever to have a legal status to show their support. And then another case is one union administrator encourage all supporting ministries to register themselves under the Global Mission Department. So one case, one supporting ministry register them itself to the union. However, in another union in the same country, they have a different policy. They said that they have to wait 2 years. The supporting ministry have to wait for 2 years under their supervision to evaluate if they really support the church. And after 2 years, they say that they still need time to evaluate. And then the situation trigger a misunderstanding and a fraction between the union and the supporting ministry. From the perspective of friendship leadership, the fraction is not necessary, and the distrust as well. So a more effective leadership, mutual friendship, mutual relationship could have happened between the supporting ministry and the union, because both operate for the benefit of the global church, even they are work uniquely based on the local needs. And so another example, Elephant give the middle manager named Kim claimed to be a coaching leader. He claimed that he is practicing relational leadership model, but the leadership Kim agreed to the developing and the participation of the employee is significant in leadership. She of things now try to do all the work. However, even though Kim knows a lot of information about idealism of the leadership, but not critical enough to and fundamentally practicing them. So therefore, so Kim lets someone lead. When Kim lets someone lead a project, she seems to only mentor and leader the okay leader project named Robin with suggestion and evaluation. However, the way Kim guides Robin show that she is controlling the way the project should go. Kim wants to coach Robin, but steer her at the same time by signaling her a specific direction she should go. Alfonson, so this is the example of those who believe that they already accept the relational leadership, but fundamentally they don't practicing, they are not practicing it. So therefore, friendship leadership must take its place in inner core of a person or organization for a positive result. It needs a structural change in the organization for the fundamental support for this approach to work well. For example, from the previous case, any representative of a supporting ministry, including evangelism school and its alumni, can be included in the union or conference global mission committee, so every party can share the same identity. And at the local church level, the common church members may be given a structural right to attend the church board meeting so they can feel that their contribution is welcome at any time. In the context of small group, it encourages the church to integrate the efforts, to work in harmony with other departments. The small group team can even work together with other denomination or any small group or ministry or club in the society, including non-government organization or foundation that are not necessarily religious entity based on the specific outcome we are targeting. So just keep in mind that everybody is somehow sharing the same identity and purpose in the wider context. So the conclusion and recommendation. So friendship leadership can be one of the answer to the current leadership struggle in doing global and local mission leadership. In Mark 9, Jesus clarified that anyone who bears his name, either doing great thing or small things, is with him. He showed that right attitude of a leader is to show appreciation and acceptance to the involvement and contribution of anyone, even just a small thing. A leader as a friend show appreciation, is open to correction, is always ready to make a necessary adjustment. A friendship leadership does not sacrifice others. Instead, she or she is willing to sacrifice himself for a better outcome. Friendship leadership brings some quality in leadership to deal with people who show opposition or different opinion in doing ministry in the church. Together with servant leadership model, the model operates in cross-cultural worldwide church. Moreover, it helps the church to maximize the contribution of any elements you need in the church or in the society for successful of the church mission. It preserves the equality and individual of the individual in the church and uniqueness at the same time. In the global sense, it appreciates differences and synergizes even opposite values. So friendship leadership help the church appreciate the role of any supporting ministry units, even individual in the church, and involve them in the decision-making process. It considers the well-being of the members of the church and the society, both church and the society. It also help the church to appreciate the role of other denomination in ministering to the word It promotes a welcome attitude, acknowledging others' role, appreciating simple act of kindness, giving opportunity for others not to stumble block, being reflexive enough for a cross-cultural and being example of living in peace with another. Recommendation. The church, therefore, need to do some training for adjustment and establishment to all supporting organization and the church member in regard to this matter. The church should be able to look for any potential help. The church should be able to look at to any potential help that may come from anywhere in the church, even in the society, for the success of the mission. Moreover, the church should be ready to make a fundamental change in the structure to support the new implementation. The change in the structure help the implementation of the friendship leadership works well and firm. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Orsly, for that wonderful presentation. We have a few questions here. As I read the questions, may I invite you to also look into the chat box that you would also have, you would be reading it with me. Our first question is from Pastor Frank Chirwa. Thank you very much for the leadership lesson. How do you link friendship leadership and spiritual leadership? I did not get it properly. Pastor
Can you
Orsly?
say friendship leadership and what leadership?
Friendship leadership and spiritual leadership.
Yeah, friendship leadership is just one specific element in the leadership, one specific one specific quality in the leadership found in the Bible, and it's all part of spiritual leadership. It means we are all talking about the contribution in the biblical leadership model of leadership. Probably you can name spiritual leadership as a specific type of leadership, but I might not aware of the definition, your definition about what the meaning of. But we are talking about friendship leadership as part of the biblical model of leadership.
Thank you, Pastor Orsly. You also have a follow-up question. What do you think is the best leadership style as far as small group leadership is concerned? It is the type of transactional or transformational leadership.
Okay, thank you. I have explained before that friendship leadership is part of the relational oriented type of leadership, but transactional and transformational leadership is part of the classical leadership. We might use, but the current situation, the recommendation for the current situation is to use or relational oriented leadership in the current situation, because if we are dealing with this kind of cross-cultural globalization era, I don't see if we can survive by using type of classical leadership that really just want to do like kind of as a manager, dictate anything, something like that, or even put any kind of classical leadership. So friendship leadership is relational oriented leadership style. So in the small group, I have told you before, the practical, probably the useful for it is to help you to understand that everybody can contribute and we can work together with almost everything, even in the society. For example, you don't have to really come to the society and group your spiritual label name as a spiritual group, but you probably can visit any kind of club in your society, bike club, motorbike club, sport club, or anything, and then you can join with them and then start the Bible study later on.
Thank you, Pastor, for that answer. It's interesting how contextualized approaches can be very useful. We have the next question here from Pastor Margie. You said diversity is not a problem. How does friendship leadership allow for exclusivity, even when presenting the uniqueness of our distinctive Adventist doctrines or the three angels message?
Okay.
So how can you be exclusive?
Yeah, I have read the question. So it might not exactly, we can say that diversity is not a problem, but what I said before is diversity is a reality that we cannot just simply ignore. Not just simply ignore. And the skill, the leaders we need. So instead of we are fighting, we are contradict each other. We are trying to just stand. Oh, I'm the right. I'm claiming to be the right one. So the leadership that we need now is how to acknowledge the diversity and to let everybody do something or contribute something to the greater purpose and meaning. Like for example, in the church, probably there are many tribe and clan and probably group or anything. They might claim their interpretation of something, their understanding of something is the right one, but they are looking only with this situation is happen everywhere. And so as a leader, instead of ignore this, we try to find a way how to synergize or let them work together in some degree, in whatever level they want, they can meet each other. So that's how friendship leadership, this mentality is able to look at the uniqueness of any party or individual and bring them together in some level or some degree. And
Thank
when
you,
we are
Pastor.
talking, okay, probably.
Thank you,
Yes.
Pastor. We are running out of time, but however, we have two more questions here. How is friendship leadership effective in small groups?
Okay, now I have told you, give you a little bit example. For example, you don't have to always, the church have to give you money to start the church group. But if you can somehow work together with other in the society, like non-government or foundation or any supporting ministry or anything that can support you financially, probably you can go together. Or somehow in the society, you have specific group that you can work together with other denomination, even with other denomination for a specific purpose. If you just start getting specific purpose, of course, for example, in my experience, I was maintaining 36 small groups in the past, and some of the small groups I have maintained, Some is a taxi driver club. We make a friend with the taxi driver club, and then we organize worship together. And then later on, we are the one who lead the session, the study every week, once in a week. And another group is not is just it's just it's still a guest. They are not part of the Adventists, but the house of this person is strategic enough to help us to reach specific community. So we use this house instead of, because we don't have any Adventist house around the area. So we work together with this person and this family, and then we reach the area using their house. And then later on, we introduce our message and we study uh, our doctrine in the. So anything we can do, but it could only happen if we have this kind of friendship leadership mentality. If we apply, because it's not, I have mentioned also before that theoretically we can say, oh, it's good. We can just be probably accept the other contribution, appreciate other contribution, but then in reality, we want to control, we want to have our own specific agenda, even personal agenda. We are not thinking about our global church agenda, or in the higher level, we are share the same identity, even though in the small local area, we are unique. We can, of course, we can go with other, go to our specific agenda and identity, but we have, if we can think wider enough, we can have something that we can work together with other and share the same identity. So we can go with other approach, and this is really neat with this friendship leadership approach. We understand how we can accept others instead of confronting others.
Thank you, Pastor. The last question is, how did Jesus practice friendship leadership? This comes from Pastor Steve Pointe.
Yeah, that's what I explained in chapter 9 in our study this afternoon. Mark chapter 9, explaining how Jesus applying this when his disciple himself reject or blaming or discourage other people in doing ministry because they said that they are not part of the disciple of the 12 probably, or the 70s. Jesus, instead of agree with them, Jesus gives some kind of explanation and lesson to them that that's not how things supposed to go. You cannot help the boy, and now there are some other can cast out a demon, and you say they are not part of us, the community. But you just previous couple minutes ago, you cannot help the boy with the demons. Now others can do that, can help, and now you say them they are not part of us. So that's how Jesus taught them a lesson.
Thank you, Pastor Orsly.
Yeah,
I think the internet is choppy and we are losing connection. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. I'm sure all of us are blessed. At this point, I would like to present the certificate. Let me read the certificate for you. Certificate of Recognition, proudly presented to Orsly W. Raranta for presenting the topic Friendship as a Leadership Model, implementing Jesus's leadership style in Mark 9:33-50 in the Church Relation and Mission Strategy. During the 15th AATA Theological Forum, themed Church and Small Groups in Africa, held virtually on June 2-3, 2022, given on this 23rd day of June 2022 at IAS Lalan Wansalang, Cavite, Philippines. It is signed by Dr. Ricardo Gonzalez, IAS Seminary Dean, Jean-Claude Rukundo, ATA President, and OC ATA Secretary. Thank you. I hope all of you enjoyed our presentation this afternoon. We would have more interesting presentations for the rest of the day. At this point, please take a 5-minute break. It is time for us to exercise, drink some water, and come back for our next presentation. So we have 5 minutes. The time is ticking. Let's get out of our seats.